Live. Yeah, good.
What's the offseason been like?
Busy, because Matt came in, when he came in, so it's been a bit hectic trying to get all the South Scout done, all the analysis and all that stuff taken care of. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
Is there any difference for you with that change?
With Matt?
Yeah, I mean, is there any difference for you since he's come in? You know what I mean? Yeah. Do you change anything about how you go about business?
No. There might be some nuances to how he wants things done, particularly coming from our end, but otherwise, no. It's all the same stuff, really. Yeah.
Where do you see Adrian's mind right now as he processes last year?
He's in a really good spot right now, mentally, psychologically, if you will. So I feel real good about where he is right now from that perspective. Losing takes the toll on everybody, particularly the position that I coach. So, but he's in a good spot, I think, both mentally and physically.
Scott said in December that he had some postseason surgery, and said today that it was his non-throwing shoulder.
Yeah, left one.
So when you go over results with Adrian and how he needs to improve, how do you balance his experience also with the fact that he was dealing with some things that were outside of his control last year?
Well, you guys had asked me some of those questions during the season. We just can't worry about those sorts of things that may or may not have an impact on us, from snap to snap. And as we went through the film analysis and so on and so forth, and he and I sat down and looked at it and talked, it was just about making certain that his eyeballs, are in the right spot. And when they're in the right spot, he's pretty good now.
I mean, do you get a sense that, I know you can't worry about it in the moment, but I'm sure it factors in how he progresses towards his junior year. I mean, how much was he impacted by the knee and the shoulder last year through the season?
Well, he would never let on to me about one thing or another, I'll tell you that. So from game to game, it just seemed like he was as healthy as a horse. He didn't complain about anything whatsoever, either in practice, before game, at halftime, or anything like that. So,
how do you read defenses last year? The eyeball thing. How did he do that?
He did pretty good, but there were some times when he could have helped himself and helped the team with being maybe a little bit more disciplined with his eyeballs in terms of where they belong.
Would you say, was there a circumstance or a kind of defense that happened more often with?
No. No. Really, no. And it wasn't a healthy amount of times. It was just in some instances where, man, what are you doing with your eyes, bub? When we're sitting together watching tape, and in his brain, as he would reflect back on that particular snap, I don't know.
All three of those guys played enough last year before you could probably get some decent assessment of how they did. I know Luke was maybe a little more limited in what he was running, but Martinez and Vedral and McCaffrey, what do those three guys do that you really liked? What was the area where you're like, I need you to get better?
I think just the read and key part of it, and being comfortable with that. The situation of contingency offense part of it, which is, whether you're playing JV football or you're a 12-year veteran in the NFL, you can always get better in that part of it. We've identified that piece of it going into spring. And then, being masters at the protection part of the game, because we have some control over our protections. So we've identified those things, and you guys have probably heard Coach Frost already talk about the toughness part of it, right? And the detail part of it. The special teams is what it is, and then the speed part of it.
When you're a QB's coach.
To answer your question.
When you hear people start talking about McCaffrey playing receiver, what goes through your mind?
Aside from smoke coming out of my ears and that sort of thing.
That's what I wondered, I guess.
No. No, he's a quarterback, And if anything happens beyond that, that's a discussion that I'm certain he would enter in with Coach Frost and so on and so forth. But myself going forward and how I've been since we recruited him and since he's been here, he's a quarterback, and that's how he's been operating in terms of meetings and all that sort of stuff.
What's your system with film in the off season? You just go back and start with game one, and then you work all the way back through the season again with all of those guys?
Yeah.
Are there things that you see after the season because you have more time to think about it, to dwell on it, that you weren't seeing in the season with errors or anything like that?
No. It's just you don't want to get, how would you say, too crazy about it to get the young guy all tongue-tied, I guess, if you will. It's kind of like mechanics, if a young guy, you're working on whatever he might need to do mechanically in terms of his stroke. Well, get it corrected, but then when it's game time and when the season comes, hey, you just got to play. You don't want to be thinking about those things when it happens. So, similar to reads and keys, this is where your eyeballs belong, and let's make sure they're there. And from week to week, go and play.
Do you do that with each quarterback, that you go through the games that they would have played in?
That and or as a group, yeah.
So Adrian is limited a little bit, Scott said.
Yeah.
I don't know, I know that you look at things really objectively in the way you coach. Can you have a true quarterback competition with Adrian not totally healthy?
Sure, the only thing that Mark, the trainer, has asked of us is just make certain he's not involved in any sort of contact, which our guys aren't in contact anyway. But if there's a situation where Coach Frost and Coach Lubes wants to work on specific quarterback runs against our defense, that's probably not something that Mark Meyer's going to want us to allow Adrian to be involved with. So that might be a situation where he's not going to be involved.
Is there any? Have you guys talked about how you can keep your quarterbacks healthy?
I'm sorry?
Have you guys talked at all about how you can keep your quarterbacks healthy during the season? Both years now, Adrian's missed a game, at least one game.
Yeah, just in terms of the number of carries and all that
the number
sort
of
of thing.
exposures they get down the field.
Yeah, just in terms of limiting the number of specifically designed runs for the quarterback. Yeah, that's something you keep in the back of your brain from game plan to game plan and so on and so forth. He ended up being our second leading rusher, if I'm not mistaken, last year, right? And I can tell you that's probably something that, Coach Frost probably doesn't want to have happen on a consistent basis, But he's going to make certain that we know and our quarterbacks know that whatever we got to do as a group to win a frickin' football game, that's what we're going to frickin' do.
You said both you and Scott mentioned that Adrian's in a really good place mentally. Is that just from conversations you've had with him personally, or
Frosty said that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Does he take up yoga or anything like that, or meditation, or?
I'm sorry?
How do you know that? I guess is that
just from talk. You guys see athletes after games and you talk to them and you get that sense of where they are, emotionally, right? So from the end of the season up until when he came back and I saw him in January, I was talking to him all over break and so on and so forth and whatnot. And he's in a good place right now.
How has Logan Smothers kind of attacked his first couple months here at Nebraska?
Logan, man, he's going to be a good player for us. He's doing real well. I gave him a preliminary quarterback test and he frickin' ripped it apart. So I just wanted to make certain that he was on his toes about the fact that from an athletic standpoint, he's as good as anybody that we could ask for. Now, can he just match that with understanding the playbook? And by what I saw of him today and the reps that we did give him, he feels pretty comfortable. Now, he just has to get to that point where he says to me at some particular point in the next week or so, hey, Coach, I'm ready to go, man. Let me have as many as I can take.
He was like,
How does he,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, how does he compare with guys like Adrian and Luke? You've had an early entry in each of the last couple years. How is he kind of compared or stocked up?
Similarly, yeah, you know, just in terms of their approach to that part of the game, because the athletic part of it's not a big deal. I can't work, and I couldn't work with Adrian, I couldn't work with Luke until we started spring ball in terms of getting their strokes squared away. So Logan has a few things that we need to get taken care of. But as it relates to your question in terms of him attacking the playbook, I guess is what you're asking about. He's been comparable to those cats. Yeah.
He was like a walking medical report at the end of high school.
Yeah.
Are you know, limited at all with him and his? I mean, I know quarterbacks aren't going to take hits like you said, but full go.
Yeah, full go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good to go. I mean, he's fast right now, and he got faster since he got here in January because he was healing. And he can run now, man. That cat can run. He's really pretty smooth.
How's his speed like comparable to McCaffrey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know he's just like that. You know, very smooth athlete. And Adrian, when he gets going, can run like a deer as well, as you guys know.
When you're recruiting quarterbacks now, is it almost imperative that those guys enroll? Or like, because you've had Adrian, you've had Luke, you've had Logan. I mean, potentially, if you get somebody in 2021, it could be someone that can enroll early. Is that a thing that you want?
Great question. I think I've talked to you guys about this before. Frosty has not put any sort of pressure on those young guys about coming in early. If they can, it's a great benefit because they get X amount of more practice time and being around us and all that sort of stuff. But it's not a prerequisite or a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. If they get early, great. If they don't, that's okay too.
Why do you think you guys, specifically your position, struggled in the red zone last year throwing the ball?
Oh, I think there's all sorts of reasons that go along with that, just in terms of the guys you might have on the perimeter and all of those sorts of nuanced sort of things that impact your ability to perform real well in the red zone. So,
how do you feel like your quarterbacks did? Like when you review Adrian and Noah, I don't know how much Luke was in there and actually threw it. How do you feel like they did? Where can they do?
They did okay. Yeah, we got to get better in that area, just as an entire group.
How much you guys obviously are not numbers wise at receiver where you plan to be in August. How much does that take a toll, or does that factor into what you're able to see from your quarterbacks this spring?
Well, that's an awesome question. I like that. That's a good question. And the thing that's important for our guys right now is to develop that trust with the receivers. And for us today as a group, just the speed by which guys were getting into and out of their breaks was refreshing for the guys I coach. And I had to get them as a group and said, listen, when the guys are running this route, it's not going to be like what you're used to before. It's going to happen a lot faster. It's going to be a lot more crisp. So
Day one like that?
Day one, man, right off the bat. And so that'll be a carryover, despite the fact that those cats aren't here now, that when they come in the summer and in the fall. That'll just be a carryover, and then getting those guys in the fold.
What's the added? What's the anticipation level for your quarterbacks, in spite of what you just said, to have Omar Manning, Xavier Betts, I mean, big, tall guys able to run routes. Not to say that they're going to step in and start.
No,
right
I get
away,
it.
But just to have them in practice and as targets like that. What does that? What can that mean for their red zone?
Yeah, well, there you go. Sam just asked that question. That's certainly a big part of. Well, for example, Stanford University. What do they do once they get inside the 5-yard line? They run big body fades. Everybody knows it's coming. Well, go ahead and stop us. So the ability to have those kind of guys on the perimeter, even being able to use your tight ends out there because we have athletic tight ends, is going to be a bonus. Yeah.
How does toughness manifest itself in quarterbacks? How do you see that?
I don't know. You've seen Scott Frost play, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, just a tough ass. Not a candy ass. Going down and making a block for one of your guys, and when you don't have the ball and those sorts of things, and just playing with that mindset that kind of shows up the way you carry yourself on the field, Just so we got to be mindful of that.
You want your guys to wear their emotions on their sleeves as QBs?
I want our guys, the quarterbacks that I've always coached, is to play the game within the framework of their own personality. Now sometimes guys are real quiet and maybe too quiet for the position that I coach. So you got to coax them to get outside their comfort zone. Some guys can be a little bit too boisterous and over the top, so tone it back. So for them to play the game within the framework of their own personality and at the same time take care of those leadership pieces that are required, at least from them talking or saying X, Y, Z to their teammates or the receivers or whatever it might be.
How do you see Adrian in that area as far as within the framework of his personality? What does that mean to you for how much emotion he shows, whether it's on the field or off the field?
Yeah, he gets, he gets a little fired up after he might do something really well, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I'd rather them be a little more like Joe Montana and not show any emotion or very little, but I can't control that. I don't want to be that kind of guy, and Frosty doesn't want me to be that kind of coach with them. So let them play the game, let them do what they're going to do with the understanding that at the same time, the time to get pissed off at yourself and the time to celebrate exuberantly is when the game's over.
Right.
Yeah,
we saw that there were times last year. Colorado comes to mind after the game. We get him for a few minutes, so I don't know that it's a clear picture. But Colorado, Purdue also, where he seemed pretty frustrated. Understandably. Is that you're comfortable with him and showing emotion like that and being that kind of guy?
Yeah, after a game, if he's despondent, as long as he snaps out of it and gives himself 24 hours to mourn or whatever, and then let's come back to practice and get after it again. I get more concerned about, I guess, if a guy had a big smile on his face after you get your ass kicked, I don't know that I'd be too pleased about that either. But most of the concern is during the game.
Is it like as long as they channel that frustration in the right way?
Yeah.
You feel good? You feel like he has done that?
I think he's done a nice job with that, and I think at times he probably puts a little bit too much of a burden on himself. But I would imagine, just in thinking about it over the course of the years that I've coached, I'd rather have a guy that way than the other way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think overall he's done a pretty good job of managing everything he's had to manage since he's been here.
What's Logan's personality like?
Quarterbacks had a quarterback dinner, I don't know, whenever it was, and he sat next to me, and I think he said 3 words the whole night, so I had to tell him to shut up and not talk so much.
He's a quiet guy, though.
He's a quiet, and but Logan's getting used to everybody around him, and and that sort of thing. So noticing his personality when I got a chance to see him at Muscle Shoals and at practice and during the game, he was a different cat. He's been around those guys all his life, so I'm certain he's gonna he'll loosen up the more comfortable he gets around his teammates and around the quarterback group. So, but he's a great kid.
You haven't had to call him over to your house to have your wife cook him a meal to take care of some homesickness. I know his parents were concerned about that.
We're going to get that done. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm certain it's coming.
Right, so he's adjusted well to being away from home for really the first time.
Yeah, he's done a nice job with that. And I talked to his dad the other day just to give him an update on what was going on. I told him I'd do that right before we started spring ball, and then I'll talk to him again this week, and just to kind of give him a sense of how Logan's doing, and he's doing really well. You know,
it seems like that relationship that you had with them was, just a huge part of, why it was such a drama-free recruitment with him. There wasn't a concern about him slipping off to an SEC school, in the fall. How do you? Is that like a constant through your career of recruiting quarterbacks that you've been able to succeed pretty well at developing that kind of a relationship, not just with the kid but with his family?
Well, number one, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you recognizing that. But from the moment that we start recruiting a young guy and we get involved with him, Frosty, it's just my personality anyways, is not to be one way during the recruiting process and then another way once they get here. I tell them, who you see is who you're going to get. Nothing's going to change. And I think they appreciate that. I tell them up front the things that sort of irritate me, my pet peeves, and everything else is fine. Let's go play. And making certain that the parents, well, for example, when I talked to Shane on Saturday, he says, I was going to call you. And I told him, hey, if you need something or you have a question, call me. I don't have any problem with that. I said, I'm not going to know if there's something you need me to help you with, Logan, if you don't tell me. But anyway, I called him and we had a great talk, and I wanted to make sure he felt absolutely fundamentally comfortable that if there's anything he needed as it relates to his son, to make certain that he or Amy gave me a call. And we made that very clear to them through the recruiting process.
Had you ever gone to visit a kid before when the kid wasn't there? Before last winter with Logan, when he was playing in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game, I think you visited that when he was gone, right? When Logan was out of town.
Oh yeah, because he was at practice, right? And I wanted to go out to see him, and then the schedule got put together, and I told Shane and Amy, I said, I'm coming anyway. I said,
right.
This has as much to do with your family and his younger brothers who went to a basketball game and all that and had some food. It is as much about recruiting their families, recruiting Logan, they love their brother and their son and all that. So that was really important to happen. But I think that was probably the first. But we didn't bat an eye about going out. It was going to happen.
If you end up taking a scholarship guy in 2021,
yes,
5 quarterbacks, is that about the max that you could really effectively coach?
Frosty would like to have 5 scholarship quarterbacks. Yeah, and we're hoping to get a 2021 guy, and we feel like we got a good group of guys we're looking at, and we'll see where it leads.
When you're recruiting for classes out, do you try to get guys that are similar to what you already have on your roster? Do you look for anything that would be different than what you already? Because I know with other positions, you might try to get a complementary player to what you already have.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is that?
No, as long as they can run and they're athletic, and then do the research on what kind of kid they are, and are they quick blinkers, which you're really not going to know until they get here anyways. But what was really good about watching Logan today was that which we asked in terms of the questions about being able to process information showed up today. So no. And the young guy we're recruiting from here in the state is a taller version of all the guys that we have on campus right now. So, but he's right. He can run. He's athletic.
When you're recruiting a guy, how are you able to to pick up what they can mentally process in the recruitment part of it. Because you don't get to coach them, you don't get to see them in practice, you might get to see them in a 7-on-7 or a very contained environment. Are there certain questions or conversations that you try to pick with recruits so you can understand how their brain works?
Yes.
Or when you have them on
Yes.
campus, maybe you get them in front of the whiteboard kind of thing?
Yes, both in terms of asking the coaches the questions in a variety of different ways to see if a red flag comes up, or when you talk to the young guy and ask him about his offense and what they do and those sorts of things, how facile he is with that sort of information, kind of gives you a pretty good insight into what they've gone through mentally. You know, young guys that come from different offenses may be a little bit different that way just because of the nature of the offense, so you have to kind of take that into account. Mackenzie Milton's offense in Hawaii was pretty wide range, so you know we understood that he had a lot that he had to handle on his plate. Logan's offense was like that at Muscle Shoals, so you ask as many questions as you possibly can, but again, you're never going to know for damn certain until they get on campus.
What's the key to keeping 4 really talented guys happy through the year?
Well, I don't know, you know. We're going to find out together. You know, we seem to think we do a pretty good job of evaluating the guys that are here in terms of why they're number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the depth chart. We seem to think that we've gained their trust, so trust us, you know. But I think that'll stem off some of it, but I won't know until we find ourselves in that situation.
Sorry if you've been asked this already. What has Matt brought in his short time to the offensive staff, and in particular, as you went back and watched last year, the good, the bad, the ugly, what does having a set of fresh eyes do for you and for the staff as you try to get better, obviously?
Well, one of the things that he's the organizational part of it, just in terms of how we watch practice, when we watch practice. I'm just talking about, let's just say, the staff now. What projects we're responsible for, when they're going to be presented, how they're going to be presented, why they're important, why we need them. Putting together the practice faces for all of our practices. I'm able to hand the quarterbacks a sheet, for example, of all of our practice before spring ball starts and tell them, these are the plays that are going to be run, boys. These are the formations. Everything that we do is going to come off this sheet. Right? So that has made it and will make it easier for our guys, you know, just in terms of what they have to be prepared for practice to practice.
When he got
The thing I noticed today was just the speed of which the receivers were in and out of their breaks. That was something I noticed right off the bat. Now because I haven't seen 7-on-7 or anything. That's why I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of times our guys were late on a throw, and it was because of what they've been used to. Hey, I told them, we have to get this thing out of our hands now. We're going to have to be sharper and quicker, which is great.
When he got here, was it clear that he, not only the familiarity that Scott and he had from Oregon, but with the work that he did last year, you know, watching film and all that, was it clear to the staff that he had some familiarity, maybe more than a new guy just walking in the door?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just in terms of him understanding the offense and the verbiage and the numbers. And
Yeah,
the
maybe your
routes and this
personnel,
and that.
you got a lot of guys coming back on offense.
Yeah, yeah. So it was, aside from the fact that everything got kind of bunched in because of when he came in, and there was so much to do in such a short amount of time, typically those transitions are taken care of maybe in December, or at least somewhere thereabouts. So you have more time. You have X amount of time, even when you're on the road recruiting in January, to get some of that work done. So it got compressed. But his familiarity, number one, with our offense, and number two, the relationship he and Coach Frost have. whether it's one idea or another, or let's do it this way, not do it that way, so on and so forth. That all has an impact on me sometimes, you know. And Luke's is going to say, well, yeah, let's go ahead and get it done this way. Great, let's go. So, yeah.
Good here.